morning. My special greetings to Rusikosa, to Kathy, Duff, and to you all, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank Trilogue for the opportunity to address this distinguished audience at its 2017 Business in Society conference. It's wonderful to see some of many luminaries in attendance from the private sector, NGOs, community, the media. I believe it's important and imperative that civil society join hands in equal footing with the business community and government collectively to push forward our aims of social and economic transformation on the continent. So I'm glad to see we are starting out on the right foot here today. It's my honor to speak to you this morning about, I was asked to talk about the role of women in socioeconomic transformation of Africa. Perhaps I'll change a little bit the title. Instead of talking of role, let's begin to think of the right place of women in the transformation of Africa. There's a difference between playing a role and being at the right place. We seem to believe that there is a landscape in which women simply have a sort of a collateral role. And my suggestion to you from now on is to think of women being at the right place where they can unleash the ability, the capacity, the creativity, the driving force, and really to sit, as I would call it, at the driving seat. And at that point, we won't be talking of roles, but of the right place. I've been involved for many years as an advocate for women's rights. And so I'm pleased to see gatherings such as this prominently addressing the powerful place women can play in transforming our communities and countries. As it stands, society at large is not benefiting from the full economic potential of women, as women continue to be underrepresented in key industries and executive roles. They face barriers in entry to the formal economy and often suffer from discrimination and experience challenges in balancing the demands of family and work life. Additionally, the wage gap between men and women is significant and knows no boundaries. Research indicates that in the same or similar occupation with near identical background and experience, women still earn approximately 10% less than their male counterparts. There's a growing body of evidence which demonstrates that when women do not reach their economic potential, the economies of their countries suffer. As recent McKinsey Global Initiative report found that $12 trillion could be added to global GDP by 2025 by advancing women's equality. I'm no mathematician, but the calculation is simple. Without women participation in the formal economy, our economies do not grow to the extent they could or need to grow. There are untold benefits for our continent, should we really begin to seriously invest in our female employees and women entrepreneurs. I'm saying there's a need to look at the informal economy as something abnormal, where we should strive to bring that energy and that contribution of women into the formal economy so that their contribution can count, but it's also going really to make our GDPs, if you like. Our GDPs will change dramatically if we bring those women into the formal economy. Empowering and educating women is a critical driver to social and economic development on the continent. There's untold benefit for employers to bringing on more women as a part of their workforce, particularly at leadership level. Studies have shown greater access to education and participation by women in male-dominated occupations in Africa could increase worker productivity by up to 25%. What we are saying is bringing women into the formal economy, making them grow within our companies up to leadership roles. It's not charity. It's not only because I am women's advocate. It is a business case. It is a business for you. It's to improve how your companies are going to perform, how they are going to be profitable, and how you are going to have a better working environment if you do so. So it is particularly in the interest of companies first. It is in the interest of our nations. But of course, at the end, then of course it meets my particular interest, which is women's rights. Additionally, a number of studies on teamwork and business strategy reflect that diversity in gender, race, and age of staff result in better decision-making processes and better outcomes. That's what I was saying. Women have a unique way of humanizing the cold dynamics of business. And in addition to their core competencies, often they bring much needed soft skills, emotional intelligence, and empathy to the workplace. It simply makes good business sense to employ women at all levels of the organizational structure. The increased integration of women in the formal economy has a knock-on effect which elevates the status of women and her perceived value in society at large. The ability to be in the driving seat at the helm of decision-making processes shifts patriarchal power dynamics. A quick scan of societies with high percentages of female participation in the economy reveals that more influence women hold in the workplace, and the more authority their voice holds, the more esteem and respect women tend to be given as a collective outside the boardroom as well. When women's contributions are recognized and valued from an economic perspective, a profound social shift and elevation of their status often transpires as well as a result. In addition to positively impacting the overall economy and their places of work, the interactions of women in the formal economy also improve the home front as well. Women who are vibrantly engaged in the formal economy not only positively impacting the financial situation of their families, but women with more education make better use of reproductive health and family planning information and services in achieving their desired family size, and tend to have smaller, healthier families. In Egypt, for instance, children born to mothers with no formal education were more than twice as likely to die as those born to mothers who had completed secondary education. It is widely known that there is a strong correlation between the level of education a woman receives, her ability to develop herself as a career-wise, and her contribution to the formal economy. However, it is also clear that her education and earning potential also influence her health and well-being of her family. Numerous studies have now shown that over the next decade, the global incomes of women will grow from $13 trillion to $18 trillion, which is more than twice the GDP growth of China and India combined. McKinsey's Power of Parity study also confirmed that women's economic contribution to global economy is around 37% GDP, with African women contributing 39% to GDP, which is slightly above the average. We tend to think that the developed world will give much more contribution than we are. And here we have an example that we in Africa, we are going, even if we engage women, we can have even higher contributions. These figures strongly suggest that in every corner of the world, when women are players in the economy, their families and their livelihoods are better off. This is encouraging, and we need more data, because in our continent, one of our weaknesses is precisely reliable data. While we intuitively know how important it is for women to be active contributors to the economy, there's very little empirical evidence quantifying contributions of women in the African economy, and a dearth of reliable demographic data as well. We have a severe knowledge gap when it comes to reliable data sets providing information geographically and sectorally. What we are trying to suggest is we need to move of the just calculations of percentages and having national kind of average, but we need to know how is it the participation of women in mining industry, in tourism, for instance, in different kinds of manufacturing industries, so that we'll have the right strategies to elevate the participation in each one of these sectors. For example, which regions of the continent have the most enabling environment for female entrepreneurs, and what key ingredients to this success can we share across our borders? What specific challenges are women facing in sectors, that's what I was saying, where they are underrepresented, and why? Which types of roles are women disproportionately not filling, and why? Where are women making significant contributions, and how can we better quantify this output? And where are they remaining marginalized, and why? We would suggest that this kind of questions will occupy our decision makers, our business associations, and even in our companies, to try to understand better so that we can see what I'm going to say following. Armed with reliable data, we'll be better informed to answer questions such as these and create strategies to increase the power and presence of women and support them more appropriately. I'd like to share a few findings from research study that my trust completed a few months ago, entitled, "I Started to Explore Growth Barriers Faced by Female Entrepreneurs in East Africa. The aim of this study was to bridge a bit of the data gap I mentioned earlier and establish the growth barriers faced by East African female entrepreneurs that hinder them growing from micro and small enterprises to medium and large-sized businesses, and to inform interventions which will unleash their potential. Over 660 female entrepreneurs were surveyed across Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. And many of the findings are recommendations which I believe they are relevant to South African context as well. The study found that, one, female entrepreneurs in our neighboring region are young and well-educated, with 69% falling between 20 and 40 years of age, so very young indeed, and 64% in possession of either a bachelor's or master's degree. They operate across a rich variety of sectors, most significantly in retail, 17%, in agriculture, 13%, and consulting, 11%. At least 50% of 600 businesses surveyed stated that they trade regionally and serve diversified markets. East Africa actually is more integrated than perhaps the Southern Africa, so there is clear relations that they trade regionally. I'm not so sure how we in Southern Africa we trade with one another. I'd like to highlight a few of the findings as they mirror challenges female entrepreneurs in South Africa face, and many solutions to these obstacles can be brought to bear with those seated in the room today. Over 50% of the female entrepreneurs cited access to finance, about 31%, and access to markets, about 23%, as the two main challenges they face and are still yet to overcome. So two, financial capital and access to markets. The two biggest obstacles cited in assessing finance are collateral requirements and prohibitive interest rates. I think this also applies to South Africa. Collaterals and prohibitive interest rates. We found that out of the total of respondents that applied for a loan, only just over a quarter of them were successful. Aside from constrained financial resources, we also found that these women entrepreneurs are operating without significant non-financial support to assist them and their enterprises. 67% of the female entrepreneurs who were surveyed do not have a board of directors and advisors. 63% do not have a business industry mentor for guidance. And a third of women entrepreneurs have not participated in any training for their businesses. Are we surprised that they remain small and sometimes just medium, and they never move from there? Why is it important for us to have this knowledge? Is that instead of aiming at supporting women without knowing exactly what are the challenges they face, we wouldn't be successful. So we decided to undertake this kind of studies and this analysis so that really we can group with priorities what are the obstacles and why we need to be working with them to solve the starting, but also mentorship. And I will talk a little bit of the networks which we have set up. I have a couple of suggestions for us to consider today and over the course of this trialogue conference as we forge collaborations and partnerships to ensure women are given access to markets and finance, as well as your offices and boardrooms and therefore are fully able to lend their muscle to transforming this continent. One, there is power in networks. Our approach to women's empowerment at Graca Machel Trust is to establish and strengthen networks to drive the economic advancement of women and increase the participation and visibility of women in key sectors of society. We think it is going to be very difficult to support them individually. But if they are organized in networks, then there is the strength of working with one another, and there is from our side much easier, approach to how to make them move in groups, as we used to say in our trust, in waves. Underpinned by the belief that development of the continent is hinged on the sustained participation of women in socioeconomic spheres at all levels and across sectors, we have 3 networks operating across the continent, which helps to amplify women's participation in the economy. One of them is the Network for African Businesswomen. It strengthens businesses' women's associations and identifies and supports existing businesswomen to develop into growth-oriented entrepreneurs in 10 countries in East and Southern Africa. So this network, and in conjunction with partners in the private sector, we support and grow the impact of women in the economic sphere. Through what we call Women Creating Wealth Enterprise Development Program, we trained 91 women entrepreneurs in Zambia, Tanzania, and Malawi, and you'll say it's small, I'll explain why, last year on critical elements of entrepreneurship, including how to access markets and finance. By the end of our next training this year, over 300 women will be equipped with the skills, resources, and tools to help them grow their businesses. We started with a small number because we wanted to learn lessons. We wanted to understand better. And as we have the first cohort of women, then we increase. As I said, now by the end of this year, there will be 300, and we are hoping with the partnerships with others when we'll go to thousands, and hopefully in future, we can even go to millions. We have the African Women in Agribusiness Network, which addresses challenges in food security and identifies business opportunities for women in the agriculture sector in 8 countries. The African Food Basket Project, as we call it, is a regional project which touches 5 countries that aims to expand opportunities and create wealth for women entrepreneurs and smallholder farmers in the seed and legume value chains to ultimately improve nutrition outcomes and household food security in Southern Africa. I want you to register that we deliberately working with this network to address the issue of seeds. Because we believe one of the shortcomings in our continent is we are forced to import seeds. In some cases, they are not even adequate to our soils, and we lose our traditional knowledge of operating in agriculture in which we also improve seeds which are adequate to our climate. And it is something many of you may not know, but I do. From my grandmother and my mother, this is how they did agriculture. Of course, you introduce new technologies, but don't lose what is your own experience, your knowledge system, if you are to get into the developed world. The project is being piloted in Malawi and Zambia and involves working with 22 women-owned seed companies and 2,000 smallholder farmers. So we create a sort of a microcosm or microsystem in which the center are these women-owned seed companies, but then the smallholders are the ones who get the support from the companies, but also they sell the produce to the seed companies. Then we have another network we call New Faces, New Voices, which is a network present in 16 countries which advocates for increasing women's access to finance and financial services with the aim of advancing the inclusion of women in the formal financial system. In Uganda, the chapter has provided financial literacy training to over 250,000 women and men in 2 rural districts and established saving clubs to help community members to pool their resources. This subsequently led to a commercial, which we call a financial trust, opening a branch in these areas which had never had direct access to banking services before. I'm also excited to let you know that our Rwandan chapter of this network has just launched a fund that will create a savings vehicle for Rwandan women to access capital markets for as little as $6. In our case, $6, it would be something like what? Yeah, as small as that. The Rugora Fund will invest in different market securities in Rwanda and East Africa and cash deposits. In 2 years' time, the fund plans to invest up to 5% of its net assets in a second fund that will make debt and equity investments in women-led businesses and businesses that benefit women. I'm trying to tell you that there are innovative ways of how we can support women to get access to financial resources. And this chapter is coming, these two actually, which I just mentioned to you, they're coming as an example of from very low, women can become investors. We have, a habit of trusting that you can only be an investor if you have a huge amount of money, okay? If you can go to GSE. And this is to tell us that with creative ways of knowing exactly the reality of your country, having also the ability to learn how financial systems work, you can bring the village woman, the township woman, to become an investor. And we hope this is going to be then expanded to some of our countries. Funds like this help women overcome barriers, as previously mentioned, to accessing capital and markets they need to grow their businesses, and they contribute as fully as possible to the economy. There's a need for support of networks like this to grow their memberships, develop their capabilities, and increase their scope and reach. In addition to ensuring financial inclusion of women, there are practical ways in which companies can support their employees and women entrepreneurs. Company culture must reflect the value it places on its female staff complement and their unique contributions. Implementing pointed recruitment and retention efforts is one way to ensure key decision-making roles and board positions are filled by qualified female candidates. What we are saying, it's not going to happen on its own. There has to be a decision from the top level of the company. One, to trace talent within company, encourage them to grow. Second, to develop from the lower levels women who can gradually grow within the company. And when you are recruiting, also to have your attention that you just don't recruit blindly. You can look at how you bring much more women into your company. So it's a deliberate and we would call it strategic decision of the management to work on these issues. And honestly, we are happy to work with some of the companies which want us to discuss this in more detail. Let me give you an example. Our chapter, New Faces, New Voices, in Kenya, decided precisely to work with the boards of companies, those who were already in their kind of GSE. And they offered to analyze with the boards, with the heads of the chairs of the board, to say why you do not have women in your boardroom. And some of them, they responded that because they don't know where to find women. And our network said, oh, you can't find them. Oh, fine. So we'll bring them to you. And they had identified highly qualified, experienced, with huge amount of expertise, women, and they say, you can choose from this. So that you don't have the excuse that you don't know where to find them. I'm sure this could be an answer which could come from South African companies as well. So if you do not know how to find them, please talk to us. We'll be happy to help you to identify, and we give you a range of them so we don't impose, so that you can select the best for you. But honestly, there is one strong belief that the enormity in which we are, in which women are being marginalized and ignored as if it is normal. Listen, we are 52% of our society. And these numbers, they are not talking only in terms of how we are. It means it's a lot of knowledge. It's a lot of expertise. It's a lot of talent. It's a lot, actually, of intelligence, what you can call emotional intelligence, which is being ignored. Just make a deliberate decision to bring them in. You'll see the results. And you'll be surprised how your company is going to operate better. So, women carried unique weight in our society of juggling both family and career demands. And we need families, all of us. And we need healthy families. So we just have to deal with this reality intelligently. And so that it doesn't become a burden to women and to become a barrier for them to perform at the workplace. So, taking advantage of technology, flex time, and remote working conditions to accommodate these demands and help female employees balance family and work are also helpful ways to create an environment which enables them to be as productive and also to be supported. Ensuring equal pay for equal work, equal pay for equal work, and providing transparency in hiring and remunerating processes are additional key ways to ensure equity in the workplace and foster an environment of respect. I would suggest that each one of you as companies look inside and say, are we paying the same to women and men? Because this is an issue which globally, there's no country which can say they have resolved the equal work, equal pay. So it means it might be happening in your companies. Can I suggest that you look at that? And really where you have qualified with same skills, with same commitment, men and women, just remove this gap, which can go as high as 10%. Another issue is mentorship. It is the need to mentor a promising colleague or entrepreneur, offer training programs to upskill promising employees, and lend your expertise and networks as board members to female entrepreneurs. There are endless possibilities of support. Now let me finish talking about what we call Women Advancing Africa Forum. It is an initiative which is part of our ongoing efforts to multiply the faces and amplify the voices of African women as a force for economic and social transformation of our continent. We decided to bring together something like 250 women stars coming from all the regions of our continent. They will be together in Dar es Salaam between the 10th and 12th of August. Rising stars, global champions, to explore the critical place women should play in shaping Africa's future. Under the overarching theme of driving social and economic transformation, the forum will focus on 3 core pillars, which is promoting financial inclusion, increasing market access, and driving social change. We believe that the selection of these 3 thematic areas provides a common agenda for women in the economy as they cut across all sectors of the economy and speak to all women at different levels of the economy as well. We invite you to partner with us in this effort and support initiatives like this, which harness and unleash the power of African women. So some of you might want to be partners in sponsoring this initiative. Some of you can even suggest who are the stars who could participate in this. Not only sponsorship, but also participation is mostly welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you today with a challenge to formulate ways in which you can play a greater role in your spheres of influences to ensure women's voices are heard, to ensure that they have a seat at the decision-making table and they are enabled to participate fully in the economy. I encourage you to define for yourself and your organization how you are tangibly going to work externally with the partners gathered here and internally with your own institutions to create an enabling environment for women to flourish in business and in society, and in turn help transform this beautiful continent of ours. I thank you for listening to me, and I'm sorry I was a little bit long. I hope to be able to engage not only myself, but my colleagues from my trust here, if you are interested in some kind of follow-up, just for us to discuss further some of the suggestions I left with you. Thank you very much.